Salama family, salama, how y'all doing today? Hope you're blessed and highly favored. One thing I want to start off with is, if you're not familiar with the other channels where you can listen to this broadcast, you can go to my Facebook, Entail Ministries Live. We have BitChute. That's not going to be live. That's after the fact. We have Hebrew Connect TV, right? That's going to be after the fact. And we have D Live as well, which is streaming live. So if this channel ever goes down, you have options. And let's not forget also the extended Tail Ministry site, Tail Ministries Extended on YouTube. I feel like I'm being watched. So, I'm a little cautious. And, if you like what we do and you want to follow, then I would suggest, first you register with the Tail Ministries Extended site, because that's the immediate backup, right? And then you'll have others. So understand that today I don't even know what is against community guidelines. That's why I'm cautious, right? I have no idea what goes against it. So anything I say today could put me in jail, just like I was on Facebook. Yeah, I know. Your Yakobo been getting in trouble. Well, anyway. So family, what we're going to talk about today is, strange things going on behind the scenes. Now, you got to understand that Yakobo sees things differently. Okay. I see things differently than most of the community, most Christians, in terms of biblical prophecy and how some of those prophecies may play off, right? I don't take for granted what we've been taught by Eurocentric Christianity, the whole 7-year timeline, all that stuff. Now, I do believe that some of the traditional Eurocentric doctrine of the end times comes into play. And how would that be, right? Because I say I don't believe that. Well, I believe that the powers that be are creating a end time scenario. And I also believe that, if you watch my my Antichrist video, I talk about how I believe that the Antichrist is a spirit. And I talk about how that spirit inhabits different leaders in different times. And that spirit can, let's say, have inhabited someone in the past, can inhabit someone, in the present, someone in the future. And I believe that's probably the case. Thank you, A.M. Stone, for the gift. So understand that my view is different than most people's eschatological view of the end time. So I had to explain that, because some things you're not going to understand. If you're a new listener, let's say, and you haven't watched the Mark of the Beast video or the Antichrist video, you won't know where I'm coming from and how I see things, because I see things and other people don't see it. And they don't understand why I see things this way. Well, you have to watch those videos if you want to know how I see things. Okay. So I see things more as time goes on in an esoteric fashion. And what I mean by that is, like I was saying about the Antichrist, because the Bible says that there are many antichrists, right? There are many antichrists, have been many antichrists, and I believe it's the same spirit. So when I see certain things, I'm not looking at it from the viewpoint of the Left Behind series. I'm not looking at it from the viewpoint of most Christians. I'm not looking at it from the viewpoint of most Israelites, because most Israelites expect a 7-year tribulation period, the rise of the Antichrist, all these things. I don't expect that. Now, I believe that there were many tribulations, like great tribulations, because the scripture talks about how people will be thrown into great tribulation. And I think there is a great tribulation to come. That's just a great turmoil, like great oppression, a great death, all that stuff that we've heard about the end times. And so when we look at things from a Eurocentric viewpoint, if you're still looking at the 7-year timeline, the rise of the Antichrist and the whole world government things, which is what it looks like is happening right now, you're not going to get it. Because what I expect to happen is that all of this is going to change, right? And we're going to go into this new system of government. Now, their goal is to create a world government. Their goal is to create this system of totalitarianism run by technocracies and global oppressive transgenic human beings, stuff like that. You know the story. That is their goal. Now, from what I see, they're not going to meet that goal. They're going to meet part of that goal, because the woman that rides the beast, America, right? The woman that rides the beast is expecting to continue to control the beast. She's expecting to control this system. So the new system that we call the Great Reset, she's expecting to be the head of that as well, right? Managing it through the United Nations. I don't think it's going to work out that way for her. So understand that if you're going to let's say, if you want an understanding of how I see things, then you're going to have to look at it from the viewpoint of who I believe the Antichrist is. Thank you, Stacy, for the gift. And what I think the mark of the beast is. All right. So David Spangler stated, no one will enter the New World Order unless he or she will make a pledge to worship Lucifer. No one will enter the New Age unless he will take a Luciferian initiation. So the question is, what does that look like? What does a Luciferic initiation look like? Well, we can look at similar things like fraternities and sororities, right? We know things are happening at nighttime, and we know that they go through rituals, right? We know that in many secret societies there are initiation rituals. So how do you get most of the world to take a Luciferic initiation? Now, I think that the initiations for the New World Order can be long-term, completing at the point where we see in Revelation 13 that if you don't worship the image of the beast, you will be killed. So I think an initiation for the world can be over time. And I think they've been initiating the world over time. So we all remember there was a movie, right, years ago. I think it was the early 90s. Y'all could correct me if I'm wrong. But it was called Eyes Wide Shut. So the thing I didn't know about Eyes Wide Shut is that there was a Jewishness connection. So this article is from the forward. It says the elusive Jewishness of Eyes Wide Shut, Stanley Kubrick's final film. I wonder why it was his final film. Could it be he was letting out esoteric knowledge that wasn't supposed to go out? So it says the inherent Jewishness of Arthur Schnitzler's, I know I'm not pronouncing it right, but bear with me, trauma novelle, the source text for Eyes Wide Shut, presented early problems. Stanley Kubrick's films rarely contain Jewish characters. Lieutenant Goldberg in Doctor Strangelove and David the Jew in Spartacus are rare exceptions. Typically, though, he removed Jewish characters from the source text he adapted, including the killing Lolita, A Clockwork Orange, Barry Lyndon, and Full Metal Jacket. So what was to be done with Tromaville, Schnitzler's story in Jewish? His central characters are Jewish, so the central characters of Eyes Wide Shut were supposed to be Jewish. They lead lives of turn-of-the-century Viennese Jews in a city rife with artistic and cultural turmoil. But while not addressing it directly, observes Ilyan Stavans in his book, The Invertebrate Dreamer, his pages are indeed seeded with Jewish metaphors, such as his unmasking or his desire to transgress the confines of marriage, which can be interpreted as a wish to transcend the boundaries of Jewish identity of the time. With one exception, Schnitzler's characters don't directly identify themselves as Jewish. Thank you, Eric, for the gift. The exception is pianist Nachtigall, who plays an important role in the life of the novels Fridolin and the films Bill Harford. He's responsible for taking both characters to the orgy. Nachtigall is a Polish Jew, the son of a Jewish bar owner who speaks German with a slightly Jewish twang. There has been an anti-Semitic event in his life when, ironically, he was assaulted by a Jewish bank manager. Nachtigall is a bit of a brawler. In the film, Nachtigall becomes Nightingale, played by Todd Field. So understand that these characters were originally supposed to be Jewish. Now, what do we remember from that movie if you've seen it? Right, I think many people remember this image here, right? The people with the mask on, with the hoods, all these things, right? This was part of an initiation ritual. So when we look at what's happening today, we see a lot of things that appear to be part of an initiation ritual. All right, so I know that most people expect things to come in their face as they expect it, right? They expect that if you want to fight me, you're going to stand up in my face and you're going to threaten me, and then we fight. That's the way it's been done. That's what you expect. But when the fight comes through what we call asymmetric warfare, as I talked in my other teaching, then it's not as easy to see when you're in the midst of a fight. Neither is it easy to see when you're being initiated. So as we see here, we know what caused these people to wear masks. It's the same thing that got me blocked. That is why they're wearing masks. The whole world has been shut down. The whole world is a part of an initiation ritual. Now, the question is this: why are they creating this initiation ritual? Well, as you know, as I've taught in one of my teachings about the Antichrist, I believe that the Antichrist is a spirit. And I believe that Antichrist spirit can possess any man at any time. And at this time, there may literally be a person who becomes the Antichrist. Why? Because he has the spirit of Antichrist. We gotta think in terms of the spiritual realm, because the Bible tells us that we don't fight against flesh and blood. We fight against powers and principalities that live in heavenly places. So if we understand that the people that we're fighting are not human, then we need to understand then how does this play out in this world? How do they influence this world? Well, we know they have agents, right? The Bible tells us they have ministers of unrighteousness. As Yahuwah has ministers of righteousness, they have ministers of unrighteousness. So they're pursuing the goal of their father, who's the devil. So the whole world is being pushed into an initiation ritual, and they have no idea. Now, a part of that initiation ritual isn't just the mask, it's the lollipops. Now, y'all gonna have to get used to the term lollipop. Okay. And so we got to understand that the lollipop is also a part of the initiation ritual, but it's also part of a Depop program. So if we understand we're dealing with a spiritual satanic deception, unlike which the world has ever seen, no wonder they're watching me. I'm not paranoid. I'm just saying, they watch it. So if you all remember, when I about a few months ago, I did a particular teaching on the chimeras. And at the end of that chimera video, I showed you something about the rise of a Mashiach. So this was supposed to have occurred February 21st, 2020. Thank you, Wait for the gift. So here it says all Jews are one or as one. Now, remember what we just saw. We saw that there's an initiation ritual where it simulates, or let's say it's similar to what we saw with Eyes Wide Shut. And I showed you who the Eyes Wide Shut characters originally were. So here we have what you call a cry of who the world believes to be the true people of Yah. That's who they believe, right? Calling out for the Mashiach. So we talked about this and we knew something was going on. So as I look at these things, I'm like, okay, well, there's something funny going on here. So recently, and some of you all know about this, there's this information that has been going around about this guy who many people believe to be who they call the Messiah. Now, we call him the Antichrist. Not really the type of guy I would have thought they would have picked. But this is all on what they call Spanish channels. So far, I've only seen it on Spanish channels. His name is I can't pronounce it right, but it's Yehazu Ben David. That's what they call him, which stands for Hezekiah, son of David. So that's what the name he goes by, right? So this is all the talking waves on the Spanish channels. Now, I would have liked to have shown you all the video, but see, I might get shut down again. So that's why I'm telling you, you need to find out these other channels, because the more you all that go to the other channels, like, D Live and Hebrew Connect and BitChute, even Facebook, the more you all go there, the more I can share more stuff. Okay. Understand that I'm limited in what I can share because they, like I say, been watching me. So his name is Hezekiah Ben David. Now, for some reason, major, Israeli rabbis and everyone else has been following this guy, right? So there he goes. He's praying at the Wailing Wall. Here's another image of him right here where, he's in the car. They're speaking to him, shaking his hand, kissing his hand, stuff like that. I don't know if he's the Antichrist, but, this is what's happening. This is the rumor. He could be one of the many who was supposed to come, the Antichrist. Now, we know, as I mentioned, we're going through an initiation ritual. If we're going into an initiation ritual and we see that the Great Reset is here, right, which is really the new world order system being put into place. And if David Spangler say you won't enter the new world order without a Luciferic initiation, we see what initiations have been like. We see that everyone's wearing a mask, even though, hey, you know, we're dealing with viruses. But anyway, we see that there's something going on here. Something's going on. Is he the Antichrist? I can't tell you for sure, but here's the rumor. This is the rumor. I'm sharing it with y'all. So that guy I showed y'all supposed to be him, according to some of the Hispanic channels. Now, why do I think this is of concern, or we should take note? Well, as we look at what's happening in the world, right? We see the rise of the world government system. We see you won't be able to buy, trade, and sell unless you have the lollipop. It's getting closer and closer to the biblical description of the end times. Now, like I said in the past, some of these things can happen over centuries. Some parts can happen now. There seems to be a major move with some of these things happening now. So, as I mentioned, we're dealing with secret societies. We're dealing with things similar to fraternities and sororities and Freemasonry and all of these organizations that we call occultic. So by definition, they are what? Secret. So a lot of the things they do in secret, because only those who have been initiated and accepted into the order can really see everything. Okay. So those who are not initiated, they don't understand, even though it's in their face. Think a truth be told for the gift. So understand that we're dealing with a secret order. And so things don't necessarily happen the way you would expect, because those things are secret, and those who are not part of the inner circle will understand it. So that's why even some of the traditions that they have and some of the things that are happening, you may see, but overlook it. So this is an article. You all probably saw this place, and some may not. Israel unveils new synagogue in Jerusalem, Al-Aqsa. So underneath the Temple Mount, what they call the Temple Mount, as you all know, I don't believe that's the real Jerusalem. I mean, I don't care what anybody else say. I don't believe that's the real Jerusalem. I think you have a fake Jerusalem, you have fake people, and you're gonna have a fake Messiah. But understand, underneath what, right? Secret, hidden, underneath the Al-Aqsa is a synagogue. The Israeli authorities today unveiled a new Jewish synagogue under the El-Barak wall, known to Jews as the Western Wall, in occupied East Jerusalem Al-Aqsa Mosque compound. So this is why they try to convince you all that this is the real Jerusalem, this is the Temple Mount, right? Because this is the temple of the fake people with the fake Messiah, with inside of the fake land, inside of a fake temple. So following 12 years of construction, the new synagogue was opened on Monday evening. The Heritage Foundation of the Western Wall, an Israeli governmental body, said in a statement. Now, remember in the past, they used to talk about how the Muslims would do something to destroy the Dome of the Rock. But that ain't never happened. What they did, because they knew that was going to be too much of a problem, is create a synagogue underneath. Now, how they got the permission to do that, I don't have any idea. But apparently they got the permission to do it, or they just did it. I don't know. But let's get real. If this was the true land with the true temple with the true people, do you think the Most High Yah would allow a pagan object to be on top? I don't think so. I know not. I know he wouldn't. So that tells you something. So this unique design of the prayer hall combines rare art and unique lighting, creating a wonderful contrast between ancient and modern, the statement read. In recent years, Islamic institutions in East Jerusalem have lodged repeated protests over excavations being carried out by the Israeli authorities under the Flashpoint Mosque compound. In a statement, Sheikh Sabri, head of Jerusalem's Supreme Islamic Council and a former imam, stressed that the El Barak Wall was a component of the Alaska's Western Wall. The wall is part of an Islamic heritage and will remain so until Judgment Day. The Israeli occupation has no claim on Jerusalem's heritage, he added. This new synagogue does not have any historical roots. All new construction by the Israeli occupation authority in Jerusalem is illegitimate and lacks a historical basis, Sabri said, adding the holy city cannot be partitioned. So I'm going to stop right there. But understand that what we're dealing with is things being done in secret, things being done under the Temple Mount, things being done near and under the Western Wall, which is where they go and they do their prayers. So here we have another thing that is done in secret. And so as I mentioned, right, we're all, the whole world is part of a secret initiation. Now, the scriptures tells us in 2 Thessalonians, verse 9 through 13. Well, through 12. Even him whose coming is after the working of Satan with all power and signs and lying wonders and with all deceivableness of unrighteousness in them that perish, because they receive not the love of the truth that they might be saved. And for this cause God shall send them strong delusion that they should believe a lie, that they all might be damned who believe not the truth, but have pleasure in unrighteousness. All right. So the scripture tells us that there's going to be a deception that's sent by the Most High to deceive the world who had pleasure in unrighteousness, who loved the lie more than loving the truth. So power in that verse was the word dunamis. Now, the interesting thing about dunamis, okay, it can mean the power and influence which belongs to riches and wealth. So it's not just the magical powers, you know, that we always talk about the power of the Holy Spirit, that dunamis power, right? It's not just that type of power. It can be power and influence which belong to riches and wealth. Also, we have the word Simeon, right? For signs and wonders, right? A sign, a mark, a token. That by which a person or a thing is distinguished from others and is known. A sign, prodigy, portent. An unusual occurrence transcending the common course of nature, of signs portending remarkable events soon to happen, of miracles and wonders by which God authenticates the men sent by him. So just as the dunamis power does not necessarily have to be spiritual power, right? It can and it can deal with monetary or riches. Here, you know, the sign can also just be any potent event. All right. Important is a sign or a warning that something, especially something momentous or calamitous, is likely to occur. So a sign denotes that some event may take place. So sometimes when we read these scriptures, we always go to the supernatural. We always say, you know, let's say magic. That's how they term it in the secular world, right? Something like that, right? Some miracle like Moses. That's what we expect, but we don't know for sure if that's exactly what the scriptures was talking about, right? So maybe what's happening is that there's this deception, as the scriptures tell us, right? Because it says that deceivableness of unrighteousness. Deceivableness, that means they're being deceived, and unrighteousness. So we got to understand that sometimes we need to change our view on some things. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying maybe what's happening is prophetic. Maybe it's not. Okay. So then we have the word pseudos, right? Now we see pseudos, right? A lie. Pseudos, a lie. So it says a lie, a conscious intentional falsehood. So we got to understand that there's a lying wonder. A lying wonder, according to 2 Thessalonians. A lying wonder, which means a conscious and what? Intentional falsehood. So, like for instance, as I mentioned in the beginning, we had the idea of a false land, a false Messiah, right? A false people, and let's think of this, a false end times. A false end times. Why? Because everyone is expecting next. What are they expecting next? They're expecting the war of Gog and Magog. They're expecting the war of Gog and Magog. Who do we happen to see having trouble now? Ukraine and Russia. Putin has already warned Biden that he better cool it down. See, the whole world, thank you, Shitala 51 for the gift. The whole world is expecting what we have been conditioned for generations, which is the war of Gog and Magog. And if the anti-Messiah is supposed to arise, then he has to bring peace. Everyone's been expecting the rise of Gog and Magog. So all at the time that we have all this going on, we have the rise of a quote-unquote false Messiah. We have the rise of a quote-unquote expected end-time scenario, which is Gog and Magog, right? So everybody waiting for the return of the Messiah. They're waiting for the return of the Messiah, who what? Supposed to what? Bring peace. And remember, in the beginning, I showed you that they had a meeting where they all came together, so all Jews can become one to pray for the return of the Messiah. That's why I say there's something happening behind our backs. And that's why I say you can't look at things from the viewpoint of the typical end time scenario exegesis. See, the old eschatology is dealing with a people who are not the people. Understand that. The old eschatology is dealing with a people who are not the people. And if they're not the people, then there's no way that the way they taught us about end times could play out the way they expected. So in 2 Thessalonians, it also said what? Lying what? Wonders. Wonders. The word teras. It means a prodigy, portent, miracle performed by anyone. And as I mentioned before, portent means a sign or warning that something, especially something momentous or calamitous, is likely to happen. So according to 2 Thessalonians, there's lying wonders, false wonders. What is that supposed to look like? Is it Project Bluebeam that everybody expected? Or could lying wonders or an event, let's say it's an event that portend the arrival of something? Now, according to some quote unquote end time biblical prophecy teachers, you're supposed to have the rise of the Antichrist. You're supposed to have the Gog-Magog war. You're supposed to have where the world is going to be in a world governmental system, right? All these things that Eurocentric Christians are waiting to happen. And of course, the whole destruction of most people. So if the prophecies that were given, it was given based upon the understanding that the people who are in the land of the people, then their whole 7-year tribulation period timeline is wrong. And as we showed in our Daniel 9:27 video, that whole thing is incorrect the way they teach it. We don't believe in a 7-year tribulation period. We don't believe that. We don't believe the scriptures teach a 7-year tribulation period. That's Eurocentric theology. You can't get it from the scriptures. Now, understand this, that when it came to the arrival of a messianic figure, that messianic figure has to in some way blend in with the expectations of the people are. And what's the expectation of the people are? Because as someone just said right now, the Messiah comes out of chaos, so they will cause conflict. That's absolutely true. See, they're expecting the Messiah to come out of chaos. This new world order, right, which is the Great Reset, is coming out of chaos, which is why you have the issues we have now, which is why you have the issues with the lollipop, which is why they're trying to force so many Hebrew Israelites to take the lollipop. See, understand that we're dealing with people who are not straight up in your face. They're creating something, and it's all happening while you look, right? Now, why do you all think that the new leader of Tanzania is going along with the program? Why do you think she's going along with the program? Why is she going along with the lollipops? Well, one, I'm sure she's scared out of her mind what happened to the previous president. Secondly, all the world powers are going along with the Luciferic New World Order system. She can't stand on it by herself. Now, the thing I like about the previous president was he was like, hey, I'm with Yeshua. I'm gonna look out for the people. What's gonna be, gonna be. That's how he was living his life, and that's pretty much what he said in one of his speeches. I know what's coming, I'm gonna deal with it. He knew what was coming. But this woman don't know what's coming, and apparently she appears to be Muslim. So how could she understand what's happening? See, now I know it appears that Magufuli was a Catholic, but I mean, he understood the Bible. So, but the woman you got in here right now don't understand the Bible. Now, according to both quote unquote Christians, and according to many, let's say, traditional eschatological Israelites, there's going to arise this man. It's going to be a 7-year period of tribulation and all this foolishness, right? People going to lose their heads and all that stuff, right? And I'm not saying some of those things ain't going to happen. It ain't going to happen the way they say. So one of the things is that if they're trying to create a false Messiah, then they have to also fulfill some things dealing with the arrival of that Messiah and who he came from. Now, remember, I told you that I believe that the Antichrist is a spirit that inhabits bodies. Now, I would have liked to have shown you the video for this, right? Pharaohs rule again as mummies parade through Cairo. I didn't know anything about this. I heard nothing about this, and I stayed pretty current. Now, understand, for some reason, at the time of the Passover, around the time of the quote-unquote people in Israel calling for a Messiah figure and the arrival of a supposed, messianic figure in Israel right now, during the time of the Rona issues, we have this big old parade that happened. And this parade had to deal with the moving of mummies to a new museum. So let me read this to you. The convoy would transport 18 kings and 4 queens from the Egyptian Museum to the National Museum of Egyptian Civilization in Fustat. Laser show dramatic royal procession highlight Egypt's gift to the world. Cairo stepped back in time on Saturday with a 4-hour pharaonic procession as a collection of royal mummies as moved from the Egyptian Museum to Tahrir to the National Museum of Egyptian Civilization in Fustat. Laser lights and flashlights were used to decorate the night sky above the capital with the names of 22 pharaoh kings and 17 royal sarcophagi. The National Museum of Egyptian Civilization received the royal mummies of 18 kings and 4 queens. In July 2020, 17 royal coffins were taken to the museum. The royal procession began at 5 p.m. and continued more than 4 hours, passing along Cairo's main road. Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi and a group of international figures were in attendance as the mummies were taken inside the museum. The event was also broadcast live on 18 international channels. So this event was broadcast worldwide. The procession set off from the Egyptian Museum in Tahrir Square, then passed by the Tahrir Square before heading to Simon Boulevard Square and moving along the Nile Corniche in the neighborhoods of Saida, Zainab, and Old Egypt. Festivities included horse parades and performances, while the pharaonic chariots were decorated with the names of 22 famous ancient kings. Artillery welcomed the parade with a 21-gun salute. The royal carriages carried famous actors in the pharaonic dress, headed by Hussein Fahmy, Sausan Badir, Asir Yassin, and Mona Zaki. Representatives from archaeological sites in Luxor, Aswan, and the pyramids carried messages in different languages, inviting tourists to Egypt. Military bands also dressed in pharaonic costume played national music and songs, led by Abbasi and the film showing the boom in Egyptian antiquities. So this was a big event. Now, the thing is, I question everything. My question was, why now? Why, with all of the stuff going on with the Rona, why with all of the lockdowns in all of the nations, why did they have this big old huge event? Now, like I said, it would have been nice to have shown the video. You're gonna have to go look for it yourself. If y'all get to them other channels, then I could probably do that. But understand that they had this huge international event where most countries are in lockdown. So why make a big event about the moving of a few mummies to a new museum? I ask myself these type of questions. Now, I believe, as I told you before, and I'm theorizing now, understand I'm theorizing. I'm theorizing that the reason why they did this is because, understand that the spirit of Antichrist is also called Osiris. The spirit of Antichrist is also called Osiris, which is many of these ancient pharaohs were called gods. They looked at them as gods. And I'm thinking that this has to do with let's say the supposed awakening of a quote unquote messianic figure in Israel. And the question would be, well, how does this tie in? Because like I said, I believe that this is probably tied to Osiris, and Osiris is an Egyptian god. Osiris is an Egyptian god who is, in my opinion, a fallen angel who possesses human bodies. Now, if that's the case, if the Antichrist is a spirit that possesses a man, then what are they trying to get by this procession? Because you have the quote unquote arrival of a messianic figure. You have this event going on that's pretty much saluting and praising those dead mummies, right? Because understand that, as you saw in movies like The Mummy, right? those beings were considered gods and they had powers. And I'm thinking, just as we have with the hidden synagogue in Israel, we have a secret initiation or anointing by the fallen going on in Egypt, because they all belong to secret societies. Now, Hosea 11:1 says, when Israel was a child, I loved him, and out of Egypt I called my son. So the false Christ, the false Antichrist, has to have a connection with Egypt as well. The false Christ has to have a connection with Egypt as well. And so I'm thinking, just as we saw that the temple has a synagogue underneath and not a true temple, we have a hidden, quote unquote, ceremony going on for this particular arrival of a spiritual being. And it has nothing really to do with the movement of the mummies. The movement of the mummies was the excuse to have the whole world participate in this initiation. This theory, I'm theorizing. Matthew 2:13-15. When they had gone, an angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream. Get up, he said, take the child and his mother and escape to Egypt. Stay there until I tell you, for Herod is going to search for the child to kill him. So he got up, took the child and his mother during the night, and left for Egypt, where he stayed until the death of Herod. And so was fulfilled what the Lord had said through the prophet, out of Egypt I called my son. So in order for this particular guy, assuming he is the real Antichrist that everybody's expecting, he has to have some kind of connection to Egypt. And as we saw, since they do things in secret, and they have a secret synagogue, or they call it a synagogue, it's really like a fake temple underneath the Temple Mount. If they have a fake temple, quote unquote, called a synagogue, and they have this man coming who many people, at least on the Spanish channels, consider him to be the Antichrist, or saying that the modern rabbinic society considers him to be their Messiah, then he would probably have to have a connection with Egypt in order to fulfill some of the prophecies. Now, how would they tie that into him having that relationship? I don't know. I'm theorizing that this whole event, this whole thing, this whole performance and pronouncement of the arrival of the Egyptian, kings and queens being moved to another museum has something to do with this, because of the timing. Thank you, Dream Sky Lover, for the gift. Because of the timing. And like I say, it's my opinion. I'm speculating. I don't know. But here's the thing. I see a lot of stuff happening. I have concerns that a lot of things about to go down real soon. And, Israel is being targeted heavily for the lollipops. And it's because, as we can see, there is a timeline. Now, why they have this timeline, is it because the end of the 400 years? I think that plays a role. I think that's part of it. But even on their esoteric calendar, I believe there's a timeline. So I want to share some of this with you all, so you all could see how maybe what's happening on the scene isn't as overt as we would expect. Thank you, Brother Bruce, for the gift. It may not be as overt as we expect. It could be happening in a different way, because it's obvious that something's going on. It's obvious that the world being on lockdown is an occult satanic move. We know this, right? Anybody with spiritual discernment can see this. And so we see all of these things happening, and we can't put the pieces together, because we say, well, the lollipop medicine don't really look like what we see in Revelation 13 for the mark of the beast yet, but it has so many of the attributes that is so close that it's hard for me to even say it's not the mark. So we got to understand that just because we've been programmed, like with everything else, to see things a certain way, maybe it's not happening that way. And maybe a lot of the stuff that's happening is an initiation ritual for the arrival of the fallen one, right? Theoretical, family, I know. I'm just sharing it with you. Eat the meat, spit out the bones, okay? So, family, that's it. Just wanted to share this with y'all about what's happening. So go and do your research. Go look at the videos. Let me know what you think. Love y'all with the love of the Messiah. Peace and blessings, Israel. Your captivity is ending.